waiting on the mic. How about now? How about now? Can you hear me now? There we go. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and just turn the middle section of the lights on. And um, how are y'all tonight? There you are. Good. We have had so many questions come in about narcissism, and there's no way I'm going to answer all of those, and I don't have all the answers, so that's another reason. But for the next 2 weeks, this week and next, we'll be talking about it. We've been at Word of Life talking about actually what it means to be offended. You know, when your heart is easily porous to be offended, a lot of times we will look at other people and we'll be like, well, my feelings are hurt, but it's all because of you, right? And if that's true, that our feelings get hurt all because of the people around us, then we're going to be victims all the time, and everyone else is a bully, right? So if you're a victim, that makes everyone else a bully. At the same time, someone can hurt your feelings, but they can only touch in you what's already broken. Does that make sense? Where you're wounded, where you feel vulnerable, where you've already been hurt. And so those are the areas that we hurt the most on your best day and the best part of you. It doesn't happen. Somebody can say something offensive and you're like, wonder what's up with them, right? But on a day where you're very porous, it's like, why'd you look at me like that? What? No, you know how you looked at me. Right away, we can get offended. And so we've been studying that a lot. And so the questions came forward, and I'll be teaching at Word of Life probably on a Sunday morning, just a one-time shot on something very similar. When it comes to narcissism, because people will then label and they'll say, well, that's because you're a narcissist. You don't know that you're a narcissist. That's how come you're hurting me. Well, whether the person has narcissistic behaviors or not, they have to be able to touch what's already broken in you to cause pain. If they touch a whole area, a boundary will come up. Love will come up. Because boundaries are built in love. So if they touch that whole area in us, they're going to get a response that's going to be built in love. And the banner that's over us that the Bible talks about is love. And so there's a strength in that where you end up looking at them like, what is up? Why are you so angry? Why do you have to be so mean? What's the problem with you? Right? But if they look at you just a little bit wrong, or they had a wrong voice inflection, or there was something like that, and you're easily offended, and you can't get over it. An offense is something that you will hold on to. It's like, we used to on the farm. I only did this a couple times, but my brothers did this a lot with their friends. They'd have them come over, and you'd have the cow tank full of water, and then the electric wire was right there. And then you grab it and put it under the water and see who could hold it the longest. Probably not a good idea for your heart and things, but we didn't know, right? So, but there's something about electricity that'll make you start holding on to it and you want to let go, but as soon as you're getting shocked, you don't let go because you can't. That's something about, and that's what ends up happening, the same with offense. It's just like dunking it under the water, and you're like, and all of a sudden you want to let go, but you can't. Your hand won't let you, especially with those bullwhackers that they have. It's not a fun time. Although we laughed and laughed, but still, once you're in it, it's not as funny as we try to make it out to be. But so there's characteristics when it comes to looking at narcissism, and like I've said before many times, we will throw the word narcissism or they're narcissistic around because it's talked about almost like a fad right now. Wouldn't you say that? I mean, it's just a label that we throw out. Same thing is done with bipolar, and it's very offensive to people who suffer bipolar. So your grandma gets mad. Well, she's bipolar. So no, she's mad. Right? Lots of people get mad. Doesn't make them bipolar, right? That's actually a disorder in the system and in the brain that can cause you to go really low. At times you shouldn't go low, and too high when you shouldn't, right? And the chemicals in your body can actually get away on you, and it takes a little bit to grab that in. But not everybody's bipolar just because they get angry. And that's why I'm not real big on, when I taught in the jail systems or whatever, some jails had a 9 or 10 questionnaire. That's all they had, was about 10 questions. And by the time you got done answering that, they would say, yep, we got to have you go see so-and-so. You sound like you're bipolar. Off of 10 questions. Well, ask me on the wrong day. Or ask a woman who's suffering PMS on the wrong day. I'm sorry, but you can't throw that into there, and it isn't always about being angry. It isn't about that. So the same thing's true with narcissism. We can't just throw these labels around. It's very hurtful to people. But if you take it back to what the Bible calls narcissism, it's selfishness. To have a truly narcissistic way of thinking is now I've made it about myself. Now, what could cause people to make it about themselves on every subject? Insecurity. Where does insecurity come through? Past hurts or lack of information. Sometimes we've never been affirmed, and so if you don't get affirmed, then you don't know firmly who you are. And so in that lack of affirmation can also make you feel insecure. And to the level of your insecurity, what do I always say, is the level we'll feel like we need to take control. So however insecure a person is, they have to control. But they can appear really like they just got it. They're the ones that, know everything and whatever. Almost like they got a really good self-esteem, but they're very insecure. I've been in situations where domestic violence, I got called into a situation with an officer for a domestic violence situation. And it was one of those things as you're watching the people fight. And I mean loud and throwing stuff. And there were things broken and everything. And just watching, it's like nobody there, it looked like they had confidence. I'm going to win this kind of confidence. But both parties that were involved were totally insecure. Felt like no one was listening to them. Felt like they were going to be unheard. Felt like, it was the end of the world. They were totally insecure. So to the level of their insecurity, they went and took control. Selfishness is also, part of being self-centered. So the center of who you are ends up being the focus, right? I can't look here and then look here. I just look here, 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 right here. And so I'm the center. And so that also falls in that category of selfishness. And the brain is actually wired around that pain or lack of information or wrong information. It's wired to the point that the person, a true narcissist, I'm talking about top-level narcissism. The world has actually said, by SPECT scanning the brain, there is no healing for that. Isn't that interesting? That's how hardcore the brain is wired in such a way they look at there and like, I don't think that person's going to return. I don't think they're going to be able to get out of that. And that's kind of scary when I think about it. That's the world's way of looking. I believe God can heal anybody. But think about how hard, though, it would be if you're at the ultimate of selfishness, the ultimate self-centered. How can it be about trusting God, who is bigger than who you are, to heal you when you think you're top dog? Right? So it's going to be hard to get something by faith, because you'd have to actually consider someone's bigger than who you are. I don't know if I can do that. So the number one characteristic that people start out with, out of pain many times, out of loss, out of lack of a parent, many times, lack of trust, those things that come out of that pain, is the feeling of superiority. Now, is it a true feeling of superiority? It can become that way. You can talk yourself into being superior. But what happens is the pain becomes so great that you have to disassociate or deny your situation and raise yourself up, So if a person felt like they were ugly, and it's like, I don't like how that person treated me. And maybe they were a little kid when this was happening. They build a pendulum swing that comes way over, like, I'm not going to think about myself that way. This is who I am. And just like the Bible talks about in Proverbs, pride will breed shame, and shame will breed pride. So all of a sudden, in order to compensate for that, the pendulum, was just like, I'm a nothing, comes way over to here like, watch me strut my stuff. I will be superior. And the purpose of being superior is to secure the fact that you never get hurt again. So the harder you try never get hurt again, the more often you actually do get hurt. You're very porous to everyone's comment, everyone looking at you, everyone's ideas, and your surroundings can be so painful because you've set this goal of being superior. Now, when the person's acting superior, the victim to that would be like, it didn't look like they were having problems to me. They were being pretty superior right now, right? But in order to operate in true selfishness or true narcissism, you have to have the idea that I'm the one in the house that's superior. I can remember times my father showing up, definitely before he gave his life to Christ. He was definitely like this. And I'm sure I had some of those ideas built into me too from pain and hurt. But he would show up, and he was a big man, right? So you knew he slammed the car door, you could hear it. It was Dad. And people would scatter because the feeling he would exude would be what? Superior is home. All the attention, everything has to be moved. Everything has to be, if you're doing a project, you need to stop because he is here. Think that's a little bit too much? Yeah, it's a little over the top, right? And some of the things that he would do, or I've watched other people do, or I have done in the past before my heart was changed by God, is you have to exude that to head the pain off at the past, right? You have to get ahead of this thing. You have to be in a spot where, you can be in that superior spot, then you're securing the fact, you people can't hurt me because I have arrived, right? When I have found to the level of their insecurity is the level you take control. Also, it's the level you're easily wounded and offended because the mask you're now wearing is the mask of superiority when really you feel like dirt. Know what I'm talking about? Yeah? Yeah. And so pride then breeds shame, and shame comes back and raises up pride, and it's just a level we keep going. So it's like climbing a mountain, falling off and face planting, and then climb another one and falling off. After a while, though, even the narcissist will be like, I can't climb anymore. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not participating. And once they fall again, it's a dangerous spot to be in because that's when a lot of people get suicidal ideations and all kinds of stuff. So superiority is the top thing. What did I do with my pen here? The top thing. And then out of that superiority, you get entitled. When I write it on the board, it never looks right. That says entitled. Yeah, that's wrong. That's why it doesn't look right. Okay. Trying to do it fast here, people. So, entitlement. Entitlement gives you the feeling that you all owe me, of course, because I am superior, right? If I'm going to take that position, I am entitled to some things here, and you can cause a person to think higher themselves than they ought just by schmoozing on them and really training them into that. Compliments should not, or affirmations, I should say, should not cause a person to get into this superiority and entitlement mode. A compliment can, because compliments can go schmoozy really fast, and affirmations are to firm you up into what's actually there. The statement that I'm making is to firm you up into the fact that you are loved, or you have a destiny, that you count. But in entitlement, many times people have been complimented, when they probably didn't need that compliment, or over-the-top stuff. You ever have your kid in soccer, right? And you don't want their feelings to get hurt because you were hurt in the past or whatever, so you give them over-the-top compliments, like you were the best one out there. You just rocked that thing. You were awesome. Now we're going, okay, hold it. There's other kids playing. I'm sure they were participating. If it wasn't for you, they'd have lost that game. And okay, now you're going way up and above, and you can plant that thought, and that child then has to live up to that compliment. And the first time they realize when you're not around complimenting them, or the first mistake they fall off of that big high mountain you just produced, and reality slaps them in the face, and they're like, I'm a loser. I thought it was this, but now I let everyone down. Rather than an affirmation says, man, you are putting some work in out there on the field. I saw the way that you're kicking the ball today. That was awesome. You have come up in everything you're doing. See, that's an affirmation. I'm affirming what's going on. I'm not going to tell you you're a superhero, and nor am I going to shame you and be a loser, right? I'm going to affirm you across the board. So what ends up happening with superiority is if it was compliments out of control and it wasn't affirmations, then you have to live up to that mark. It's like getting a trophy, and you can never, ever take second place because you got first. And people expect you to be in that spot. That's high pressure, isn't it? High pressure. I dealt with a lady one time who had that pressure, and I said, pick something you can do and just fail at it, just for fun. Because you got to break this, right? You remember how I told you how I got my motorcycle license here? I am a very busy person. I don't have time. I've driven a motorcycle all my life. But moving from Colorado to here, I needed to redo it or whatever. I didn't have time to study, so I just went in and said, well, if I flunk it, I flunk it. I'm not. Whatever. And then you find out which ones you got wrong, and then just don't do that again. You got to be brave enough to do that. Just, and I did. I flunked it by one. I studied that one in the next day and took it again. There's something, but if you're superiority, you cannot do that. You need to study to stay in that superior spot. What will people think? I don't care. I don't care. It's my motorcycle license, it's not yours. Right? It's my right to drive, not yours. So I'm not worried about what people think. But as soon as you're put in a superiority spot, you have to hold the line on that. And anything else is so average. And if it's so average, you're already through poor compliments, through over-the-top, pride-filled, shame-filled stuff. What that will tell you is if you can't hold this line, you're a loser. Does anybody here know what I'm talking about? Have you ever been put in a spot? You might be the oldest child. You're in that spot, right? You better hold the line. You're the old, even the voice tone. It isn't like, well, you're the oldest, so that means you're going to know some things more than your sister, so maybe keep an eye on her. See, that sounds totally different than you're the oldest. And you should have been there when she, right? You should know better. Suddenly her poor behavior is totally your fault. So you're put in a spot, you're like, I didn't ask to be the oldest. Right? I didn't ask to be the superior one here. I didn't ask for that. And on one hand, things will come your way that'll make you feel complimented by being the oldest. Well, she's really responsible as being the oldest and helps with the kids and stuff like that. And then you're like, oh, I guess I'm okay. But the first fail, you're not going to hold that line of superiority. So it can be interesting how we get the idea of the focus being on us. How many of you don't mind the focus being on you? That doesn't make you narcissistic, but like, you don't mind. People say, hey, you want to come up here and share something? Yeah, sure, I'll come up. And it's real relaxed, right? There's not too many people raising their hand, though. Right? So most people don't like the focus. And what would be the number one reason you wouldn't want the focus on you? Insecurities, guys, what's going to happen? Big part is you don't know what's going to happen, and that's enough, right? And so you might end up looking bad. You might end up being embarrassed, right? So you're protecting the heart. You've got that heart protected, and it's like, I ain't taking a chance on anything. Because once I got a compliment, it brought me up to superior thinking, and then I fell off that the next day. And so I realized I ain't taking a chance at this anymore. I'm not even going to try. Some people will reach that point. But the superiority can also be a way of thinking that came through such pain that it's your only way of survival. You know what? I don't like how my parents did this. I don't like how my caretakers did it. I don't like how this is done at school. So by golly, I'm going to set a standard that is going to be superior to what everyone else has tried to do. Because what they tried to do absolutely failed. And I ain't putting up with it anymore. And the more bitter you are about what you're not going to put up with, the very thing you hate, you become. And then as you find yourself becoming that, the farther you have to climb up the ladder to be even more superior. Like, I have to get as far away from that thing that I hate. But as you're doing that, you're coming up and becoming more focused on being selfish and self-centered. The center of everything is on you. And many times it's over small stuff that will be created, but those small things are where fear and pain has been. Amen? So, superiority always says, I am entitled. I have an entitlement to this. I should be able to come first. I should have been noticed. I should be the one who's the prettiest. I should be the one who's the strongest. This is owed to me. Why? I don't know. I just feel that way. Right? Now we're starting to move into that narcissistic behavior. Sometimes people will do that with authority. You know, you can have a person who's really nice. All of a sudden, you put him as a manager at Walmart, and everyone's like, I hate that guy. Right? Because it's the first time he's ever managed, and all of a sudden, he's going to show everybody, I am superior to y'all. See my little manager thing right here? That means I rule, right? And they might not say that, but it's coming out of them, and they're positioning themselves in pride, excuse me, and nobody else around really wants to put up with that. And then they don't understand why no one's listening to them. After all, I have the manager sign, and I am entitled to your affection. Praise me. I am the manager. You know, it's that. There's that feeling that, like, why isn't everyone listening? I love what my husband says, that, you know, the best leadership is servant leadership. It's the kind of servant leadership, though, that I don't serve myself to death on your behalf. Eventually, you need to step up and help out, right? At the same time, it's the kind that says, I will work alongside of you. We're on a team. Rather than, I got the little manager thing here, y'all gonna obey. And sometimes people can't wait for that spot of power. I've seen that as I've worked alongside of some young police officers, all kinds of different roles that have been out there. They've come into the spot where now they just got their gun. They got their gun. And a lot of people you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm a police officer now. And they just, you know, it's a job that I do. And they're just really calm about it. But there's a feeling, a different walk you do, right? Right? It becomes this like, I have now reached a superior role. And how many like working with people who exude that? Not so much, right? There's something to the person who's humble but knows how to rule out of that humbleness. Like, well, this is what the law says, and I'm going to have to ticket you right now. So, you okay with that, Ryan? I'm going to ticket you. And so there's just a different feeling rather than, you know, what's your name? You know, and it's just like, I'm superior, and I'm really going to show you my authority. Well, it's automatic for most people. When you exude that, they feel unsafe. And when they feel unsafe, there's this rebellion thing that comes up that just goes, look at this guy, he's a jerk. Because you're exuding something you feel like you're entitled to, and really you need to earn that spot. Yeah? Some people, just being a mom or a dad, you can feel you're entitled. Because I got the dad label or the mom label. Everyone has to listen to me. Well, you know, there's a difference between having to listen to somebody or having a respect for them because you want to listen to them because, man, that's my dad. Man, he's awesome. Sometimes he corrects me, though. It gets rough. But he also loves me. And he also works alongside of me. And he actually is kind. See, there's a difference in that. So pain or getting hurt in these areas will cause this to take a whole different role. The next one that's there is the need for attention. Some people will set it up so they are the center of attention, always. And if they're not, then they don't want to be a part of the group. They don't want to be a part of the thing, the event, the whatever, because nobody's paying attention to me. Sometimes they come in really loud, right? Because they're used to being this is how I'll take that spot of being the center. I'm going to be really loud. Bragging, all kinds of things can follow into this. Sometimes the person's quiet, But the need for attention is so strong, they'll do wild and crazy things with their vehicles or different things like that, just to kind of like, I need everybody to notice me, but I'm going to stay humble. I'm going to say nothing, right? But there's a whole thing that's being exuded, and even with it, there'll be that belief system that I'm entitled because in the end, I'm going to be the superior one. Very much pride. Now, so far, I've only given examples of a few things, and in that, a lot of times we'll be like, well, I don't have a problem with that. You know what she's talking about? I don't have a problem with that. I'm not the manager over at Walmart, and I'm not this, and I would never treat people like that or whatever. But when you're in your own family, how do you handle certain things? I'll give you one right now. This is old show. Anybody remember Archie Bunker? Okay, it's old. You know, and I don't even know if they have it on anymore or whatever. But he had the Archie Bunker chair, and nobody could sit in that chair. Why? Because that's Archie's chair, right? People feared the chair because it was Archie. That's a posturing of superiority in the family. Now, you know, we would give the honor of a spot at the table, you know, for Dad. That was his spot or whatever. That's a different thing when you're given the honor. But when it's announced to you, that can be a superiority thing. Like, I rule here, and I can't move around. That's my chair, and it's the only chair I can sit in, ever. Okay, we might have a little bit of a problem, right? There's an entitlement thing, and your need for attention is through the roof. It's through the roof. So it can be in those types of things, those types of settings where people will, like, rule what's going on. And if we rule through love, it sets up totally different than this. Love always serves. How can I help you out? What can I do for you? You need Daddy to help you get in the high chair? I'll put you in the high chair. Whatever. You need Mama to do this or whatever. And there's just, everyone's in help mode. And there's serving going on, and there's love going on. Where I've been in homes, and I've seen things where it's like, that's not my job. That is your job. That's a superiority thing. That's when you take a role and you put it so exact that it's like, I ain't doing that because that wasn't in my job description as a father, as a mother. That's not in my job description. Okay, now we've lost love. We've lost the servanthood, and there's some type of superiority, and we're going to try to use that to rule with? No. Nobody wants to be under a king or queen who rules like that. Amen? So these are all narcissistic behaviors. So out of that, we have the need for control. To the level of their insecurity is the level they'll need to take control. We all do that, by the way. No, Pastor Mary, I'm not a controlling person. So many people control through crying, voice inflection, the rolling of the eyes, I want to take control. Just little bits of disobedience, changing things up. I'll do it my way anyway. We all have ways that we have taken control. And it's where we feel they're not going to listen to me anyway. I'm not going to be heard anyway. So I'm going to do my own thing, right? And some people have that to such degree, they're like, I don't do authority. Really? So you're your own authority. You've set yourself up as your own authority. How's that working out for you? In the long run, it's going to come back to bite you is what it's going to do. So to have control, how do you get control? This is where the term gaslighting comes in. It's like to gaslight a situation. It can be from that, out of that can be so syrupy, and it can be so strong. There's all different ways you can gaslight. But a gaslight is something that I make a dogmatic statement, an exacto statement, or we can call it an umbrella statement that covers everything, that you feel like you have no way out of, but you have to defend yourself anyway. So you can be having a discussion, And the person starts to feel like, I'm about to lose control in this. This person's going to win and have their own way. We can't have that now, can we? And you could say something like, well, if you'd ever learned to cook, we wouldn't have the problem around here. Or if someone would ever do the dishes, then this wouldn't be a problem, would it? Umbrella statement. And then what happens to the person is what? Well, that feeling inside is like you just got lit by something, and now you're on fire, and you have to protect yourself and put the fire out. Yeah. That's hard. So, same thing, chicks will do that to guys, you know? Well, I'm not the one spending all the money around here. What'd you say? Nothing. Right? I mean, it can go so many different ways. Anything that's a dogmatic statement where you pull a big lever and you go, what you going to do with that? What you going to do? That's me taking control if I do that. So the other part that happens is with people, they'll gaslight, but then they can also love bomb. And this is where you start to feel kind of crazy in a relationship when somebody love bombs you and then gaslights you later. A love bomb is where your over-the-top statements and actions just show how much you love that person. You know, you just go out and spend $1,000 on a necklace for you. Bomb, right? 2 hours later, it's like, I wish you'd do something around here. What? You heard me. I'm not going to discuss it. We've already gone around this before. Right? But it's a gas bomb that totally negates the love bombing. And the love bombing is so over the top that you're like, what? And then the gas bombing takes you totally the other direction. And what it does is it rewires your brain. If you stay in a relationship like that, after a while, you're blinking like a frog in a hailstorm. Just like, I don't even, what are we doing? Because love, and then it's just like, what's wrong with you? And those are both control tactics. In fact, they fall in the category of grooming. If someone wants to groom you to listen to them, to get something from you, get your money, get your time, get your dedication to them, they'll love bomb you, and then they'll come over later, right when you're starting to feel comfortable, right when you let your hair down, we're going to gaslight you until there's nothing left with it. And then when you're just about, you think, I just can't even take one more insult. Here, let me lift you up. Let me lift you up. I wouldn't say those things to you. Except for, I'm just trying to help. You know I love you, baby. What? See, it's a dual thing. And a lot of us were raised seeing that dual thing, so it isn't like we just got up one day and said, that's how I'm going to do relationships. But it is the relationship tools that we have in our toolbox, in our head. So if you start to feel threatened, you're like, I got to grab for a tool that'll get control. And I don't think gaslighting right now is going to be good, but I could love bomb. Yeah. And I have seen people do that where all week long it's just love. It's just like second honeymoon or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, gaslit. You're like, what happened from that week to this week? What happened? Nobody knows. Could be a mood the person's in. It could be where they feel threatened and now they've got to take some kind of action and make sure you're put in your place. Did you know you had a place? I didn't know I had one. But that's the sensation. It's like, let me put you in your place. I didn't know I had a place. Right? The superiority person knows you have a place. They know their place, but they're going to put you in your place. And it's not where they're at. Amen? So the next thing that happens is if I really want to control a situation and I gaslight you, destroy you, then pick you back up, then destroy you, then pick you back up, and then I'm like, this still is not breaking this person. I mean, I need absolutely control. I want to be treated like I'm superior. I am entitled to that. Right? That's the sensation that goes on. I need attention to know that I'm loved, and I have this need for control, and so I'm going to contact the flying monkeys. Now, people call them crazy monkeys, in psychology, but there's also others that call them flying monkeys. Flying monkeys are those crazy ones that are on Wizard of Oz. How many of you watched that show when you were a kid and got scared? Like these people are cray. And so anyways, that's when you say, I have to go outside of my capabilities and get as many of the family members, and get as many as the friends. I got to get as many of the people that I can to get in on this. And we do this really well on Facebook. All you have to do is go, oh, it's wonderful. We're at the beach today. This is our meal we ate. All of those kinds of things. And then the same person you can destroy in a heartbeat. And then you want to see anybody getting on your side, you're going to have to make a statement. Statement that doesn't really make you bad, but you're really not saying something so good, right? And then you watch to see how many likes you get. Those are your flying monkeys. They're in agreement with you. See, I got 10. So I know that I'm right. I know what I'm talking about. Or, a lot of people will call their friends. They'll phone a friend right away. I cannot believe my wife. I cannot believe my husband. That my wife did the same thing. Next thing you know, I collected one there. Who else can I get over here? And you're actually propping up that narcissistic side that says, I am superior. I got a whole team. These are wild monkeys. They're flying monkeys. They'll get in on anything just to have a good time, just swing all over it, make a lot of noise, scare people. And they're not really committed, loyal friendships to begin with. Because if they're willing to fly in on your situation and pick a side, they're willing to do that same thing to you. On a different text, on a different subject, from a different person, suddenly they're flying over there, having a good time, just making havoc of everything. Yep. They're poop slingers. So don't let yourself get caught as a poop slinger. It's like, I got to go help my friend. What do I got to sling in here? Who do I got to sling it at? You're not even involved, and why do you got a third-person offense? This isn't your argument. Right on? But that's how it goes. And this is where the scripture says, where there is strife, there dwelleth every evil and wicked thing. Every evil and wicked thing. So if you can step out of your body and just see in the spirit realm when this stuff is going on, there's demons just raking havoc. They're the wild monkeys, inspiring the wild flying monkeys to do what they got to do. So gaslighting, love bombing, flying monkeys, or wild monkeys, whichever you want to call it. And so, the reason it's cool to have a term like that, because if you feel like you had a bunch of friends and all of a sudden someone makes a gaslighting statement and it's derogatory towards you or whatever, and a bunch of people go like to that, or they're on the phone doing that, or all of a sudden they shun you and they're all about that, then, that's a poop slinger. Should you be friends with a person who's a poop slinger? Yeah. It's a no. Right? No. You shouldn't be friends with people that are poop slingers. And it should really, really have you stop and think and go, oh, wait a second. How did I hook up with these people? And many times when I've counseled people, they will come back around and be like, I guess they hoodwinked me into slinging poop at somebody else, and that's how I became their friend. They go back in the history of their friendship, and they're like, I guess I'm both people. I'm the victim, and I'm the slinger. Right? So, but if you don't know that this is what's happening, you won't know that you're participating in something that's narcissistic behavior. So out of this, if you have the need for control, you're wanting to control to secure the fact that you have the full attention. Because if you don't have the full attention, many times people who have been traumatized and they don't have the full attention, this is their coping mechanism, they don't know that they exist. They're not grounded. And part of what grounds them is the feeling that comes off of people of praise and just seeking that. It's almost like you created a monster and now you have to feed it. The thing grows, though, and then you have to feed it more. And it's never enough attention, and it's never enough control. You have to feed it. So if you commit to a relationship where this looks like this, you're really saying, I'm going to be feeding a monster all my life. That's what I'm going to do. So need for control, the need for attention is supposed to, that attention is supposed to secure the fact that they're loved, when really getting attention is not necessarily one of the things that the Bible says love does. I'll give you attention. Where does it say that in the Bible, that he might attend to your situation? But the word attention is more of like, I'm looking just at you in this way of saying, you're over the top. I want you to feel superior. Now, that's the kind of attention this is seeking. God meeting a need, that's a whole different thing. That's him attending to you. I have to have attention means the only way, I feel so insecure inside, the only way I can do today is if I can heat seek somebody to give me some kind of attention. As like not long ago, I dealt with another lady who was addicted to porn. Was she addicted to looking at porn? No, she was addicted to showing pictures of herself to different people, right? Did she want to be with those people? No. She wanted the likes. And she said, I'm addicted to the likes. I could care less about the people. I just need to know that I'm okay. You know, when a baby's born, what's the first thing that should happen? Right? You start, well, besides helping them breathe, maybe cut the cord. But, the first thing that happens is the baby lays on the mom's chest, right? And it gets realigned with the heartbeat and knows that it's okay. Okay, I just came into a cold world. This is crazy, but now I've relocated mom. And when that happens, then what is the next thing that people start doing? You look right away. You're like, who is this little person? They've been there for 9 months, but now they're on the outs. And so you're looking, and compliments or affirmations is more what happens at that point. Oh, she's beautiful. He's so handsome. He looks like his dad. Don't you think he looks like grandpa? Or whatever, And right away we start to give those affirmations. There's a built-in thing. It's not a smoozy thing. It's a real love. It's that child. That child needs that. But what if you didn't get that? What if you were put in an incubator for months and your parents couldn't touch you? And the sound of the oxygen going in there, they couldn't hear anything you're saying over them. That child is recording everything through in the amygdala, through the 5 senses, and it's recording what? With lack of touch. That's hard. That can start a person out on a road of like, I need attention. I don't know how to get attention. And it starts from the time that they're born. Not being paid attention to in the sense of like, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm 2 and I'm here. I need something to eat. Not being nurtured can leave you in a deficit of that. And then as you get older, what happens? I want to be seen. I'm done not being seen, so by golly, I'm going to be seen. Sometimes we use to be seen. Sometimes we use to be heard. Well, I can't talk to that girl unless I have a beer first. Really? Really? You have to have a beer to communicate with somebody? That's how risky it is for a person who's been wounded in that way, that they think they have to drink so they can communicate. Have to drink even more to show affection. Did you? Yeah, lots of people do. Lots of people do. Is like, I can't talk, I can't function until they get high. And then they're like, all right, now I feel more powerful, right? And that lasts a short little while or whatever. But we can get addicted to that powerful feeling. But if you track it back many times, there's a nurturing area that was missing in the person. They didn't get the memo. They didn't have the experience. Sometimes if they've proven with different individuals as they're born, if they're not swaddled and they're just laid down on a bed, maybe you're in a hot climate, I don't know, but just lay down on a bed and you've come from being enclosed and suddenly there's no closure, right? And you're just left there, oh, baby's just laying on the bed crying, I don't know what to do with it, whatever. That feeling, you know how they do this? What they're looking for, there's like, it's too big, I was enclosed. And you swaddle them and you bring that close. And they're like, I'm okay. What if you didn't get that? I'm okay, I'm okay. What if you got put in a car seat, like one of my adopted daughters, and left in front of a TV for days? No diaper change, bottle propped, curdled bottle, right? And you're in an artificial thing that's holding you. You didn't get the memo, did you, when that happens? So to the level of our insecurities, the level many times we will take control. So another one, when we have a need for control, is we figured out we could get a dopamine hit through compliments, through sexually acting out, through doing something crazy and wild, through being the best, through always winning the trophy, that kind of thing. There's a dopamine hit that happens in the brain where you're like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, we need that attention. And so what if you go for a while and you're not winning anything? You know, maybe you won trophies and stuff all the way through high school, and all of a sudden you graduate. Now what? Where are you going to go? If that's your main way of being nurtured, where are you going to go? That you're always going to win a trophy. So you're going to have to find a different thing to achieve that same dopamine. And it's a pathway to addiction, is what it is. And if we can't find it out here, many times people will take that aspect and look at porn. Because porn in our mind is like it's not real, even though your subconscious cannot tell, right, if you're watching a video that you haven't slept with that person, especially if you sexually acted out while watching it. Your subconscious has logged that as you were with that person. It's in the memory bank. It's how it is, right? So it can be so addicting because whatever storyline you played in that to get to that point where you sexually acted out, whatever storyline happened or whatever, most of the time somebody was superior, right, in the storyline? Finding a way to be superior, even though in just everyday life, I feel like a loser. Well, it can become very addicting because now you're in this avatar, a belief system in your brain. And then to say, I'm not going to do that anymore. Yeah, try that. That's why the brain, when it's SPECT scanned, it's lit up the same as a cocaine brain. So if you've ever tried to get rid of cocaine and then say, okay, how do you do that? You got to get it away from you. How do you get porn out of you? There's a difference. You can flush, or you can throw out a magazine. You can do those kinds of things, but it's too late. It's in here, isn't it? So it's totally different than dealing with cocaine. So there's something about this. This is where in here you can have been trained by a controller to need this attention and be entitled and be superior, or you can be controlled by someone and not get attention, and you have no entitlement to anything. We don't owe you anything because you're a nothing, and you'll never be superior. And usually the person who feels that finds the person who's narcissistic. Somehow they're just attracted to each other. You're like, you're one of those? Yeah, you're one of those? Yeah, let's get together. Right? Because we can only be the information we have, and the information you have sitting here right now is the only information you have, and you can't pretend you have something different than what you have right now. Right? So even if you hear some new information, when you go to apply it, you are combating all the old information, which is the majority, and you have this little slice you're coming at it with. So some people ask me, why do I got to go so many meetings to begin with? Because you have this little slice of information, and you have all this background that has to be rewired, whatever fired together, wired together in your brain. So now it's like, okay, now we have to redo this. But we also, especially under the age of 7, learn how to love and show empathy, how to say please and thank you. All those things are under the age of 7. Bonding is the best under the age of 7. And so whatever we don't get in those years, it's really difficult to be like, now I know how to bond. I'm 12. I know how to bond. I know how to have friends. Not if it didn't work out right under the age of 7. Now we actually have to learn how to bond. So what if you were under the age of 7 and all kinds of gaslighting was going on in your home? And then after the gaslighting and the fighting and people screaming, then we go to the store and we buy a toy. We make everything all better. We're going to love bomb you to make it all go away. Just go away. Right? And then if you are sassy at all, I'm going to tell all the relatives in front of all the relatives, well, this one, that's how we do it in Minnesota. I didn't know that till I moved here. This one here, this one. We don't use the child's name. This one's the problem. So now, see if the rest of the family go, yeah, I've seen it. I've seen the behaviors. Yeah. Now I'm participating. I'm flinging some dung here. I'm a monkey getting involved over this one. And shame takes place. See, if you could take the seed of sin, sit it here. Let's say it was a big old seed, like an avocado seed. And you opened it up and said, what is this thing made of? You'd open it up, you'd be like, ooh, there's a power to it. Same way there's a power to grace, but grace is far greater. You open it up and you see that it's loaded with shame and pride. Shame and pride. So wherever you feel shame, take care of and watch that area, because that will be where you're tempted to go and do something prideful. I'll show you. I'll get back at you. I don't have to listen, or whatever it is. Wherever shame is at the root, pride will then rise up. And pride comes before a fall. Shoot. What do you fall into? All the dung that's laying there on the ground from people slinging it, and you're in shame. Sometimes you can't take enough showers to make that go away. That's how you feel inside. So out of this superiority entitlement, let's say that you see somebody who looks like they're so selfish, they're acting like they're so selfish, but they're so insecure. But they have to maintain the superiority, and they're entitled to different things because of that. And they have this constant need for attention. If you don't give it to them, you hate them. You're rejecting them all the time. You're so mean. Because they didn't get all the attention, right? And they have this need for control. And when they have the need for control, you got the gaslighting, the love bombing, and the flying monkeys. Now, if those things are in operation, the next one in line is a complete lack of boundaries. It's hard to write neat when you stand in here like this. A complete lack of boundaries. So, a boundary, a good boundary, comes out of the fact that you know God loves you and He wants you safe. So then I can have a boundary for myself out of the fact that I'm loved and I'm safe. But if you didn't get the memo, and you didn't get the memo from the people around you as you were growing up, you don't feel safe. So you're in your constant need to satisfy yourself and make sure that you're the survivor who takes care of yourself. Am I not right? And if I'm going to take care of myself, then I can come in bigger in life and just have lack of boundaries. I can just waltz in your house without knocking on the door whenever I feel like it. Because I'm Mary Peltz. Right? I can ask you a question about something really intimate you shared with me or something like that right in front of everybody, because I'm Mary Peltz. I have a complete lack of boundaries. Right? So there's something about that if I will take it to that level where I will walk over you, I will say the most hurtful things because I have a complete lack of boundaries. I can just say something to destroy you. If later, I can always love bomb you later. You know, throw a little crusty bone your way. There you go. You should feel better about that. Because I brought you down to nothing. And when you have nothing, when you get a little bit of something, you're like, well, they did say that. Usually it's something really lame. Well, they did smile at me. Oh, ooh. But we're used to being stolen from. A complete lack of boundaries will do that. That means I can overstretch into your circle anytime I want and mess with anything you have anywhere, and there's nothing you can do about it. Why do I believe that? Because I'm superior. Out of my insecurities, I'm superior. And I'm entitled to that. After all, I know more and more. I've experienced more, or whatever the reason is. I have more. So I'm entitled to different things, and I do have this need for attention. It's really bothering me that you're all not coming my direction. I mean, after all, I'm Mary Peltz. You should all come my way, right? Or I'm the mom. I could just use that. I'm the mom, and why aren't you all listening to me? I'm the pastor. You should all listen to me. You should all come my way. That comes out of that need for attention. And then if you're not just praising me, yay, and on my side, I am hurt. You're mean. See, that's when people will get labeled mean and crushing and hurtful or whatever, because you're all not serving my needs. After all, I'm the center of attention, which means you all should be attending to me, right? You'll learn so much more if you attend to me, since I'm superior. Your life will go so much better if you attend to me. All of you, please attend to me. Run from that church right now. Just run. Don't even ask questions. Just get out, right? And out of that lack of boundaries, the next one, I'm not even going to write the next one because how far down the chart I'm going, and it never take responsibilities. Plus, we're gonna revisit this next week. Never takes responsibility for anything. So the word responsibility, I like taking words apart, and so responsibility means you should be able to respond with the ability that you have, right? So you take that ability you have. It's not my fault. It's them. Everything's always on the other person. That means you don't have any ability to respond in this situation at all. You could have done anything different. Oh, no. I take no responsibility. But I have a total lack of boundaries. Bad combination. So how frustrating is if you finally share your heart with somebody and you say, this is what's hurting me, this is what's going on. You just waltzed in and you did this. You're announcing their lack of boundaries. And that's really hurtful to me. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. How many of you just love when that happens? And it's like, yeah, that's when escalation can take place for sure. You can start escalating them because it's kind of like, I want this person to respond to anything they could have done different. Why won't they own something? And usually the person who's narcissistic will not take responsibility and then turn their responsibility for their part somehow, even if they did that thing. The only reason I did is because you, right? If you weren't so soft-spoken, I wouldn't have yelled. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. They're not going to take the responsibility and turn it on you. That's the trueness of selfishness and narcissistic behavior. But to own it is like, I don't know. Sometimes I've owned some things before. Like, I don't like owning things that don't belong to me. I don't see where the Bible's like, just go ahead and own it. I know you never did it. Just ask forgiveness 15 times for it. No. But there is those spots where you say, I don't know if I did something wrong. I'm going to go to God and find out. But I never intended to hurt you. See, I'm still taking my own, I can respond with my ability to say, you count. You're worth something. So let me take a look at me. I'll take a look at me. Right? But narcissism will not give you a space for anything. The only thing that it will say is you should have responded better. You should have done better. You should have been faster. You should have looked nicer. There's always a reason that if you would have just come up. Right? That's when you're dealing with somebody who's suffering narcissism. The brain is wired with an absolute refusal to take responsibility. And here's what's really interesting. When they SPECT scan a brain, they hook you all up to all kinds of stuff. Then they'll ask the person questions while they're laying there, and then they scan the brain to see how it looks. Whatever area goes bright red, then you're really lit up in that area. It's like, oh, okay, that's how they feel about it. And if it has very little movement or, it's more of a dark color, they're like, you're either oblivious, you don't know what the question means or something like that. They can tell a lot by, the brain. And so in the asking questions, they have found that people who don't take responsibility have a high fear that if they finally own it, no one in the world will love them. That it's just over. There is no grace for them. There's no forgiveness for them. There's no way out for them. There's no understanding them. Somehow they picked up the feeling, whether it be you told the truth when you were a kid and you got a spanking anyway, however, whatever it was, that says that I can't take responsibility. And so they're literally afraid of being truthful with themselves. Plus, the more selfish we are, the more narcissistic we are, the farther we are away from self-assessment and reality of who we are. Because we literally have to deny others and our problems, which means you have to lie to yourself about yourself. That's what denial does. And then disassociation says, I ain't associating with all this. That's too painful. So I practice and I trained my brain to take a superior route. That way I don't ever have to own anything. That way I don't have to cry over anything, be hurt about anything. I just take the superior route. And so it has to be you. It's obvious it's you. It's not me. You see it? Now, crazy, we've all done it at one point in our life. I ran a preschool, so I watched in the preschool. I'm like, yeah, he's just doing that little narcissistic thing, or she's just, and kids be like, I never did that. I didn't. And you're like, I videotaped you. I mean, you could say that. And they're still like, no, I never did. Because there's a fear that they're going to yell at them, or they're not going to be their friend, or they'll have some type of loss. So in order to deal with the loss that comes, we have a total never take responsibility attitude. Because somewhere in here, I take the chance of a loss taking place. I can't do it. I just can't face that. Which then, the lack of boundaries many times helps to wrestle that stuff up. If I come in bigger in life and just run over something that's important to you, and you respond without good verbal judo, without love, without that, and you sound like you feel, I can then turn that around on you and go, hey, I was just trying to help, and look at you. Look at how you're losing your mind right now. You're the one who needs counseling. So many times a good narcissist knows how to go in and just cause chaos and then just stand there like, what? You ever seen a toddler do that who knows they're knocking someone else's blocks over and they know exactly what they're doing? It isn't like they go by and they're little, but they're like, yeah, just go ahead and build it higher. You can see the look building on their face. Build those blocks higher. And then they circle, and they'll be playing with stuff, and then they'll look out the corner. And you know what they're going to do. And I've stopped them before where I'm like, hey, no, those are his blocks. Let him finish his project. Because you can feel the builder, and they're like, what? I never had it. And the first chance that they get, they go over, level it. And the kid starts crying or whatever. I had a little girl do that one time. And, these are just little kids, and somehow it just comes natural to the flesh to go through these steps. And so she knocks it over, and as the blocks go over, he starts screaming, right? And she backs up and is like, ah! She starts crying like as if he's the one who's wrong because now he's scared her because he cried. And then she's pointing at him. He's the problem. And I'm like, oh, you're good, but you're not that good. so there was something to that. And then, let's think about this. Let's sit and think about it, Sharon. Think about what we could do differently and talk to the child about knocking other people's projects down when they're right in the middle of working on it. If you want to help, then say, I help. I give them the words to say or whatever. And then they'll come back around. It's really interesting. If you give them the tools, they'll come back, I help. But a lot of times we don't give them the tools. We just say, no. And that's the end of that. And so they never grow up with the tools. They didn't get the memo of how this thing's supposed to work. I think, how many of us have been around people who have a total lack of boundaries for your space? Yeah. And it puts a lot of pressure on you because if they have a total lack of boundaries, it requires you to have really good boundaries. And how many of you have really good boundaries? Yeah. So what happens is then we avoid those people, and what those people then what it is if they're one of these people operating in this, and you back away from them, the next person backs away from them, the next person, what does that do? That validates that they need this as a form of armor to even survive because nobody likes them. I actually tend to be attracted to the little kids who are the one getting in trouble. So I was helping one time at school, and teacher's helper or whatever, and the little kid got up and just started kicking the teacher in the shin, and just kicking like that or whatever. And the class are like, he does that, get him out of here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like really attracted to this kid. I'm like, that is a puzzle I want to solve, right? But here's a little kid, right? So it's not like I'm dealing with an adult narcissist, but we have an opportunity now to help this kid out. And to be able to be in his space and hear him and why he was doing what he was doing. You can hear a child say, it was their fault and they made me and all that. And you're like, okay, that's not it. You have to find a way to get to the heart of it. Like, nobody likes me is what came out. Nobody likes me. And I'm thinking in my head, this is adult reasoning, well, if you stop kicking people, it could be a help, right? But they don't know that because they can't put that together. They don't have sequential thinking, like 2 + 2 = 4 yet. They're still in that age. And we're supposed to grow into sequential thinking, but what if you're 35 years old and you didn't get that memo of how to sequentially think? Like, here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end. And here's the good result out of it. What if you didn't get that? You're going to be one frustrated person, and so you're going to have to use other tools to survive. And then people will back away from you, and you don't know why. Which validates it, and so you do it more. There's a time and a place to back out of situations where somebody has a total lack of boundaries, and it's actually causing harm or long-term effect that, you may not be able to come out of. And then there's a time and a place to push right into that person's space. But you got to have good boundaries for yourself. It's really difficult to push into somebody's space if you don't have good boundaries, because who are you afraid of? Are you afraid of that person? That's what we think. We're like, they're so mean, and they don't have any boundaries, and they just want all the attention, and they seem like they're entitled, and I can't even be in their presence. No, you're scared of you. You're scared of your lack of boundaries. When I figured that out, I was like, I better shore this up. I got to get me some boundaries. Right? So then I came up with crazy boundaries. You know how when you first start drawing boundaries, I'm going to tell them. And they're just way over here, and you're like, no, I don't think I can say that. That could get me arrested. You'll go way over here because you're trying to find it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And then you have to come more back to the middle. And when you draw the boundary for yourself that's built in love for yourself and the people around you, right? It's going to keep everybody safe. You're having this boundary. Then it just feels like, okay, now I'm taking the chance this person with total lack of boundaries is still not going to listen. And how many times do they not listen? A lot. So you start out thinking, I drew a big boundary. Nah, not really. Unless they were the crazy boundaries like I was talking about. Like, things that would come to my mind in the past, like, I need to slap kick you across. No, I can't do that. That's not a boundary. That's a threat. So we have to clarify that. But I'd have the boundary in mind, and I felt like I really pulled a big lever. Like, there it is. That'll keep everybody safe. And person with no need or they have all the need for control, and they want the attention. They have a total lack of boundaries. Will walk right over that big boundary you thought you had. So then you're like, well, how can they? And then you have to come up with one that's stronger. So it's always the temptation to go over here and pull the biggest lever. Now, I'll pull a big lever, you pull a gun on me. You're pulling a big lever, so I might have to meet you where you're at. But at the same time, in average person controlling narcissistic behavior, you keep upping your boundaries. That's you giving them opportunity to let yourself in their life. I am loving you right now by drawing a boundary for me. And then they walk over it, you're like, that hurt. I'm going to do it again, except I'm going to add something to it. And then in the end, there'll be a point where the boundary is very strong and very well could cut them out of your life. It could do that. So, but we don't go big lever way over here first. There's a walking up there. If you're in a domestic violence type of relationship and divorce is, been thrown out on the table, it shouldn't be right away because you had an argument over, silverware. Suddenly you're pulling there, well, I'm getting divorced. Okay, because when it comes to the domestic violence thing, where you really need to get yourself safe, your boundary way out there won't mean anything anymore. Because you kept throwing that out there over all this little stuff. Right? So we have to know how to do the increments of boundaries before we get to the big ones. Amen? And that's in everyday relational stuff. Like a police officer will try to talk you through something. They should try to talk you through something before they shoot you. But if you keep moving the bar, within minutes you move the bar and you become threatening and you try to attack them, they're going to go there. They have to go there to protect themselves and others. But in relationships where you're just trying to get this to change, hello, we got to do this differently. The boundaries are here and then they move, get a little bit stronger. But, in Proverbs, I believe it's Proverbs 3. I'll have to look it up for you for next week. It talks about when somebody's being stubborn. If you look up the word stubborn in the Strong's, you'll find it. That he who hardeneth his neck, stiffeneth, is how King James says, often, will suddenly be cut off, and that without remedy. That's intense. Like where you just stiffen, you be stubborn. I ain't changing that. I'm going to stay superior. I don't need to listen to you. I can run over you whenever I want. I have the control. I need the attention. I don't care what happens to you, how many times you cry or you're mad or whatever. It's about me and for me, right? If that goes, you stiffen your neck often. It says you will suddenly be caught up. It'll be cut off, and that without remedy. Like there ain't going back and fixing it. You can always choose to forgive from this side, that person. But there's a point where it's like, I have to walk away. You're cut out now. This is not healthy. What would be the number one reason you would say you would stay with a narcissist? Fear and insecurity. There you go. What else? Since I said a number one, we'll have many number ones, supposedly. Trauma bonded is huge. And how do you get trauma bonded? Let me gaslight you, then I'll love bomb you. Then I'll gaslight you, then I'll love bomb you. And then we'll get other people involved. Get them wild monkeys coming up in here. And really letting you know, you should do better, Ashley. I mean, if I was dating you, it'd be hard because you're like this, right? Now, they're gaslighting you, and they're getting on the team, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, but we'll leave ourselves in that. We fear the flying monkeys. We'll fear the wild monkeys because those are people that might be in our peer group or something. And we're just like, I can't lose all those people. I can't lose all those people. Then you will stay in the love bonding and the gaslighting. Won't you? So sometimes you got to walk away from a whole bunch of people, and it hurts like crazy. I got gaslit after I got born again, 1981, way back in the day. And the majority of my family was just like, you're in a cult. That's a gaslighting statement because, if I just looked at you and said, you're part of a cult. You either have to say nothing at all or it's going to come up, you better defend yourself. You better defend yourself. And I'm like, no, I just love God. See, told you, cult. Right? So they raised the bar so high, I had to walk away. I had to walk away from the majority of my family. Crazy. But I wouldn't be in this pulpit today if I hadn't walked away. Now, over the years, it's come back around. It's come back around where all of a sudden they're like, so, hey, I'm just calling. You think you could pray for me or whatever? And I'm like, what? You mean the cult? Yeah. Let this cult help you out, or whatever it is. But at that point, you're just so thankful that they've come back around, but you don't change you to get that to happen. You don't lower and start getting involved in this to get that to happen. All I have to do is treat him as superior. My cousin, Jim, whenever he shows up, everyone goes, Jim, woo! And, I'm just making this up. I don't have a cousin, Jim. And, well, I do, actually. But anyways, they don't do that with him. But anyway, there's that one person, hey, whoa, yeah, and part of that might be that the person just has such a loving personality. But many times it's, we all fear you. Yeah, we want to be on your good side. Woo, yeah, so whatever you need, man. That's what we're saying. We're saying to that person, instead of going up and greeting them like you would anyone else, suddenly praise starts going because they have a need for attention. We better give it to them now. It's about them. This whole dynamics could get dangerous. And everybody in the group knows it. So in your group, in your family, in your friends, is there that person that has to have all the attention? And how you know it is all you have to say, I'm not feeling that. I'm not going to come out to that on Friday night. Sorry, maybe I'll catch the next one or something like that. What? Yeah, you've always been like this. Gaslighting will start, right? Then we got to go talk to the other people and see if I got any monkeys in there to put pressure on you to get you to do something. It's a dynamics of control. And in this, the ultimate that goes over in this, and we'll be talking about this next week as we go down more steps of narcissism or selfishness, is the ultimate is to get you switched out of knowing who you are and the full attention on who they are. Now, you don't have time to develop you because you should be doing this. That's your job. I need to put you in your place. You didn't know that was your place? Let me put you in that place. This is where you're going to be in the place in the family. This is where you're going to be in the place in the church. Whatever it is, in your group or whatever, I need to put you in your place. And so someone who's postured like that gives everybody a place, and everyone goes, okay, I just don't want to be hurt, and we get in the place. Well, what if that person's like, it ain't my place? I'm not getting in that place. Love you, but no. What if you're that person? The power that's on this is the power of witchcraft. The word picture for witchcraft in the Greek, it's a word picture, is manipulation, domination, and control. And the picture that's shown is of a little dog on his back, quivering, and the big dog, the Great Dane, standing over top, right? That's the look. And so you lose your identity for the sake of what they think their identity is. Is this their identity? No. They're lost. They don't know who they are. Well, then why do they act so superior? Because they keep trying to find it. They don't know who they are. Sin will do that. It'll rob you and block you from you seeing who you really are in God. And then when you feel lost in that, you just keep searching and keep moving yourself around. And I don't really know what true love is, but I bet you if I love bomb you and then I could get you to bond to me, I need to take something away first, though, to make sure you don't go anywhere. Make sure there's nothing left of you, and you stay right here. Yeah, oh, good job. And then you love bomb them again, and that seals the deal. And then that you already know if they get on the phone or if they whatever, they get on Facebook or they get on whatever, it's the thing of like, I am outnumbered here. Wild monkeys are coming for me. And I don't think I can handle the pressure of that. So maybe it's not as bad as what I thought. This is when we start going to denial and dissociation, and we make excuses. Well, maybe if I just work longer with this person, maybe I was the one who went too far. Like, how many times are you, with the lack of boundaries, blaming yourself for having too many boundaries? Then I say, what's your boundary? And you're like, well, I didn't really. I thought you went too far. Where's your boundary? They don't really have one. But there's a false sense of guilt that says you should never draw a boundary. Not on that person. they're the superior. Do you have a superior when you show up for Thanksgiving meal? That was pretty quick, Don. Like, yep, okay. And everyone knows who they are. And you don't cross them, right? And as long as they're happy, everyone stays happy. But if they're not happy, look out. And so the whole job of everybody, we can be talking, everything, they show up, and now our job role changed. We got to get in our place. Everybody, get in your places. All right, begin the act. That's what we're doing. We're playing a part as if we're in a play, which is the word hypocrite. Instead of, I'm going to be me, and if Mr. Superior or Mrs. Superior doesn't like that, I'm not trying to be mean to them. I'll love them. I'll talk with them. I'll be there for them. But if somehow that's not enough and they need that control over me, I'm not participating. I don't have that place. My place is with Christ. He's the only superior. What'd you say? Yeah. Do you have to say something to accomplish it, or just it's how you're postured? Yeah. Yeah. There's usually one person anyway, one, sometimes more, in a family setting. Could be uncle so-and-so, aunt so-and-so, or whatever. Like, everybody knows you don't mess with that person. That's who they are. And I used to watch this as I was growing up, and I'm like, why is everybody be talking, all of a sudden that person would show up, everything changed. Because everyone knows, you better, and they're entitled to. Oh, what about you? Oh, nothing, just nothing right now. We don't want trouble. Sometimes trouble needs to come because it's already there. All we're doing is shining light. Let me shine a light on that. See that right there? That's trouble. And then it begs for us to pray. It begs for repentance. It begs for change. All that. Do we want to go there as a family? No, we don't want to do that. It's just so much easier to do this thing we do, that act that we do, and let the person be superior. I mean, just let them have it. You're stressing me out. And then the enablers in the family will come. Let's say it's you, Dawn. They'll come around the family and be like, Dawn, shh, 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 shh. Don't do it, Dawn. Don't do it. Don't be yourself, right? Because we're all, our job, we know our place. Our job is to enable. And if anybody gets out of line, you have no idea the wrath. It's really the power of witchcraft, right? Because maybe somebody threw a fit one time, and we've been fearing that person for years. Somebody's fit doesn't kill you. Somebody cried real hard. Ooh, you know? But in our mind, we logged it in with the power that's coming off of it. It's the power of witchcraft. And it's there saying, I will dominate you. Many times the superior person, knowing they're superior, uses shame to put you in your place. They're not going to come in and say, Shane, this is your place. You get in it right now. Blah. No, they're going to say, you wore that? Just a little comment, little like your, what? Oh, I'm just saying. I mean, you look all right, I guess. Just some little spot. And then they'll move to the next person. They'll move to the next person. And by the time you're done, everyone's like, we don't know what's coming out of them next. Right? I had one person I hadn't seen for years, and he looked at me, instead of saying, hi, so good to see you again, something that would be a genuine greeting was like, you got old. And I'm like, back at you, baby. I just said that and gave him a big hug, you know? We're all going to sag and drag one day, I told him. So there was no power in it. It was like there was some kind of like he didn't know what to do with that. It's not learning how to be sassy. It's learning how to be comfortable within yourself where you're like, no, narcissism doesn't put me in my place. Sorry. That statement you made about me getting old was really all about you feeling uncomfortable because you don't know what I'm going to say about you, but I ain't that shamer. So you had to get one in first to get the attention off you. That's how that works. Anybody have questions so far? We're only halfway into this little puppy. Yeah.
Is there any way that we can, not help, but like teach the enablers, like
Yeah.
every way?
Yeah, first you have to identify what enabling is, and we will go through a series on enabling. And most people are trained enablers. There was a person in the family that was the head enabler, and there was the superior person. You always have to have a superior person that you, right? that you have to serve and get in your place about. And so somebody who's already in this and they know the system will teach the youngers, especially, how to make sure you make an excuse for everything. And the word enable really means, here, let me help you able to abuse me again. You weren't able to do that with me in boundaries, so let me help you out. I'll make an excuse for you. I'll make a way for you. I'll allow it to happen. Now you're an enabler. And any little kid watching that is like, I guess that's what we do. We're scared. We're very scared. So we find a way to make them able to do it again. Any other? What was the last part? He's got a really good point. When we're asked about it, then, it's kind of like, I'm just trying to cover that person's back. I'm just trying to be loyal to them or whatever. Well, I don't need to be loyal to sin, right? I can love you no matter what you do, sin or not, but I don't need to be loyal to it where like I'm on the side of it. I'm on the side of God, and I'm loving you because you're a person, but your behavior stinks right now. So just so you know, yeah.
Does a person know that they're doing this?
Most narcissists do not know they're doing it. Yeah. And so on a spectrum, just like you have an autism spectrum or other spectrums, way over here, the deep narcissists, you could point it out to them 10 ways, and they can't. They're like, what are you talking about? Why do you hate me? That is the theme that science is saying and that psychologists and psychiatrists are saying. They hear the most. Why don't you like me? Why do you hate me? That's what they'll come back with. And you're like, this has nothing to do with hating or liking or any of that stuff. You just can't talk to me like that. You can't just walk in here and do that. Lack of boundaries. You can't just take control. You're not in control. This is my space. What are you doing? Well, you just don't like me. You're always correcting me. You're always up in my face. And then they can do the fall apart. It's rare, but they will fall apart. And then what do? That's the card to lay out to you so that everyone enables. Like if I was to do that now, I'd be like, so you're always doing that, Ryan. Every time I turn around and see, I'm at the breaking point, right? We'll make big announcements. I'm the narcissist. And then I'll just start crying profusely and rocking in a fetal position if I need to. And then what do? Exactly what Jake said. Oh, Ryan, I got to, oh. Then I'll come around and like, Pastor Mary, Ryan, you should be kinder next time. She's crying. No, I'm serious. She's been through a lot in her life. Haven't we all? Yes.
How does a person figure out if they are a narcissist, and what do they do to change?
Well, as we go through these are some of the characteristics that you can ask yourself. We go through these, and then next week, and then we're going to go through a section of self-analysis, right? Where do I have these traits? Because you can't see yourself. You see others the best, don't we? It's the whole plank eye situation. It's a band, but also the Bible talks about the plank being in your own eye, but you're looking at the speck in someone else's,
When you look at narcissism like a personality disorder like borderline, and borderline has like DBT as a treatment program, do you know what the treatment program for?
No, they've tried EBT and stuff on people who are extreme narcissists, and it very rarely rewires them. In fact, they'll come out of that and twist it on the facilitator that's giving them. They'll be like, this doesn't work for me because, or you didn't do it right. You can't just get at the person, right? So what's dangerous about it is if we're to that degree, how do we come before God and humble ourselves? Ask forgiveness for our sins. Because if I can't own it with you, I won't own it with him. Right? And so many times people will be at church, all narcissist out, and they think they're going to heaven, and they're part of leadership, and they're in some big control or whatever, and everyone needs to pay attention to their singing or whatever it is. They're not even saved. They haven't yielded their heart to God, because that would mean repentance, and that would mean I'm not enough, and hey, I'm enough. I know I'm enough. Or they'll do a prayer one time and consider that over. I prayed in 83, so I've been good since. I don't know. You guys are really, though, off. Let me show you how I've done this. Like we had, our kids were in a private school, And they came home and they were just like, they were laughing at part of it and then just like confused about the other. And they said what happened is the pastor had come for a chapel. And this is the first time they heard him speak. So he's given them the talk, right, about keeping themselves pure. And he stands up and he goes, I've never had a thought go through my mind of anything that's impure about sexuality. And the kids are like, they're high school, and they're like, oh, because they're trying not to laugh or something because they knew they'd get called on or, slap back or something like that. But he went on for quite some time talking about how, you can arrive to this level of superiority. Or you never have one sexual thought that's impure ever. Right. So, it's really difficult because once you're at that stage, how would you present the gospel to him where the gospel itself would convict him? His mind is seared into a level of pride that it would take super on the natural big time to get through that, for him to own any behaviors. And then as he was talking, he projected it on them. Like, I don't have the behaviors, but I can see all of you are a mess. So why would a person do that? That's why you need me. You need the superior to run your little peon lives. Yes.
Like the same at the same time as like the kid on the soccer field. But then if they don't believe it, then of course you're not getting anything out of the group. But then if they do believe it, they always have to hit that standard or they're failing.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's really tough. A lot of times people who are suffering are really successful people because they can't fail now. They succeeded enough that everyone around them praised them so much that now they know, I can't fail, I can't get old. Change the battery. So, but I do have the gift of that. So there's something to that. Yes. Oh, number 6 is never takes responsibility. It's huge. It can't own a thing, which means if I was to own something, I have to, instead of looking out here, I have to go like this. And I can't do that. I will project myself outward to be the center of everything, but I can't look inward as the center, because then I'd actually have to own behavior. Yes, way in the back.
Let's say like a family member poses a lot of negative narcissistic traits, but it's your mom, and you try to break away from it, but your family's like, you can't do that, she's your mom.
Yep.
Would that be considered like enabling her?
Yeah. I'm pretty straightforward on this stuff. They're not, it's like, well, it's different for your mom, or it's different for your dad, or that's your sister. And even the tone of voice that people will warn you with that, they don't state a fact like, well, that's your mom, you're going to have to. It's not a fact like that. It's like, that's your mom. And there's this syrupy enabler guilt that goes, I know, I'm such a horrible parent. Kind of like if you've ever watched the show Frozen. Okay, she gets out of the tower, finally, out of an abusive, I love you, love bombing, and then, not Frozen, what is it? It's Rapunzel, and it's Tangled, there we go. Yeah, she gets out of the tower, and then she's running through the forest, her hair is flying every which way, and she's like, I'm free! The next thing you know, she's almost in a fetal position. I'm the worst daughter ever. And then she's back to, I'm free, because that's how you end up feeling, because there's that syrupy thing that's been done that went gaslighting, love bombing, gaslighting, love bombing. And then it's hard when it's mom. So our big boundary then is, well, I can't pull away from my mom. Well, who said you had to? But you can start stating some things. If this is how you're making me feel, we're not going to do that anymore. So if you choose to do that, like shame me in front of everybody and stuff like that, Mom, then I can't come over here. I mean, you can say stuff like that. I love you, and I don't want to see that happen. See, there's ways to do that, but if we've never had the boundaries and actually said it and everyone else is scared, all the adults in your life and everybody, they're like, don't do it. Just don't, who you're messing with, that's your mom. If that's the feeling, you're not going to be brave enough to ever share your feelings. I would like it, and Ari's done it, not maybe as blunt as I would say it, but, where she said kind of like in an area like, Mom, that's jacked up. Then I have to revisit it like, well, that could possibly be because you are dealing with me, right? And I have some areas that I know if you're really, how to own behaviors, it's like, yeah, I could see how that would make you feel. I shouldn't have said that like that. That's jacked up. But if you're dealing with somebody, you finally get brave enough. That's the part. You're revving up to be brave enough that you're going to finally say it. And then you say it, and they act like you said nothing, or they run over what you said. The pain that hits you is so like, are you serious? But it is the reality of the depth of control and the lack of boundaries and the lack of them being able to, the other one, take responsibility. They just can't do it. This is one, yeah, they have a never take responsibility, yeah. So was there another question? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That they know everything about everything, and you talk to them about what you've been learning, and they're just, well, that's not right. You better watch out for this.
Yeah.
There's nothing positive that comes out of it, and then they're, I don't know, they're always slamming you down on
Mm-hmm.
what you've been learning at church or whatever. You're trying to improve your life, and every time you talk to them, they bring you down 5 notches.
Yeah.
Is that
Not, he's asking, just to get it online, when you bring up something, the first response is really picking at it and picking it through all the things that are negative about it, rather than listening to you or hearing you out, which is a trained response from most baby boomers. I'm on the last part. I was born in 64, so I'm hanging on the tail end of the baby boomers. And the generation that was before, so blunt, just so, they'll nail your blunt statements. But I watched my husband deal with someone one time just by asking questions back. Because, see, those statements can come across as gaslighting. Like, you better watch it. You could end up part of a cult, you got, or whatever it is that they're saying. And then you have to defend that position. Don't defend anything. Just ask questions like, and I've done this when I was street witnessing, like, so when were you hurt in the church by something that intense? Share your life experience. I'd like to hear why you postured yourself that way. Because I'm just talking about something I experienced, and you seem to be really upset about it. You seem to really, and you acknowledge where they're at, and they don't know what to do with it. They'll be like, well, no, I'm not. I don't. Well, it's just that, when I bring stuff up, it seems like sometimes it's like you're afraid. Do you not trust me? Are you saying that you don't trust me? So you're asking a lot of questions, and then give them the space to answer. Stare them right in the face. I really want to hear your answer because, the other part is, in certain situations, I've told people, hey, you can't be an expert on something you've never participated in. So I can listen to you to a certain degree with your advice, but if you've never been there, sorry. So have you ever been in a service like that? Has that ever been, what kind of church did you grow up in? How did you see it? I start asking questions. But I also let them know you can't make expert superiority decisions based on something you never even participated in.
Non-matter of fact, and then you mean like ask in a not matter of fact type way, just regular.
Yeah, just ask them a question. That's called care fronting. I care enough about you and me that I'm going to front this situation. We're not going to let it continue, right? Where when you confront, that's different. You're like, you know what, old man, or whatever it is, and now you're confronting. Did you have a question?
That's why scripture is called the sword.
Yeah.
Good to utilize, the word with all of that. Because what are they going to do? Argue with God?
Yeah. Well, they can. No, a ton of people that'll argue with the word. And then you just keep, and they'll use the word in a twisted fashion. And then you got to debate. It'll go on for hours rather than, just saying, I want to hear where you're coming from. Like, what's up with that? Because I just want to be heard by you. You tell them what you need. I just want to be heard. I didn't need some big opinion or whatever. Are you okay, though? Because you seem upset about this subject. When did you get hurt?
Is it gonna be worse, like, in that situation, like, just to saying, I agree to disagree? Is it gonna just, like,
Yeah, for a lot of boomers, that would be just like, yeah, you disagree. I know you do. You know, right? Am I not imitating it? So it's a training we've had, and it's a way. Yeah, you need to come under, you need to get in your place and listen to me because I know. Right? Well, you know some things, and I'm going to respect you in that, but you don't know all, especially if you haven't participated, haven't really studied it out. You haven't been there. Come with me. Come with me. You can be there. They don't want anything to do with it. So it will get worse before it gets better, but if you really want it to stop, you have to start confronting it like that. Carefronting it. It's a skill, my friend. I've had people come and sit in the service, and I just go and sit by them, and they'll go, I haven't even said anything. They'll be, I'm an atheist. I don't want to hear it. Whatever. I said, I just came to say hi. Wow, that was a really strong response. What would make you respond that way? And they're like, well, just people try to cram. Yeah, I don't like when people try to cram stuff down my. Next thing you know, we're having this whole conversation, and the person's asking me about my belief in God. But you told me to begin with, you didn't. But because I was just talking to them, had a genuine care for them, I'm not arguing, nor do I need to debate. If you're a true enabler, when you go to finally draw that boundary, you will have to have 25 excuses why you're doing it. And then when you finally unleash it, you'll walk away feeling totally guilty that you ever spoke. Disgraceful, dishonoring to your family member, or whatever it is, yeah. Yeah.
if you're new at setting boundaries, should you kind of just slowly set boundaries with them and give them the chance to stay in your life, or should you just cut them off?
Well, the more communication you have with a person, the more you're in their space trying to build a relationship, the more you have a right to ask deeper things, right? To go up to some stranger and just, you don't. But they're not in your life on an everyday thing. And you can see that certain people, they can't handle it. They're going to have to. You can't just go grab superiority thinking and be like, I gotcha. And I'm pulling you down. You're the stronghold. All their thinking is wound around that. Like their brain is literally wired on their survival mechanism of how they're going to make it through. And so to grab a hold of all that at once, no, you pick your battles. What's the hill you die for, you know? And you look at that and be like, what's the real issue, though? Most of the time, the gaslighting that's said, you'll end up arguing about that. It's not even the real issue. That's why I take it off of that. So somebody gaslights you, and you just go, whoa, that's an intense statement you just made. What would make you feel that way? No, serious. I want to hear what you've got to say. I want to hear what's going on inside of you right now. Well, no, I don't really want to. And they'll dance around it. But if you confront a gaslighting with more gaslighting, you make a big statement, then the whole house will blow up. Yeah. So you had something?
I've got a couple people that I've encountered, they will kind of label everybody around them as a narcissist and even like share multiple Facebook
Yes.
videos. And like you watch what they share, it's like that actually applies to you. Like, is there a way?
Yeah, and they can't see themselves. They can't see themselves. They're because they have the need for control with the lack of boundaries, but they cannot never take responsibility. And if something happens where they're left behind, let's say we had something really cool happen like last Saturday night here, for those of you who are here. Ooh, that went on. I think I went to bed at 1 and got out of here around midnight or something. And I mean, it was good, right? And somebody sees that online and they're like, I'm not a part of that. And they look like they got a whole thing and go, we can't let that happen. And so they rise up superiority. And they'll start feeling entitled to say something like, I got some flying monkeys after this. I got to bomb this. I got to, do whatever it is to get that control back, because the attention really needs to be over here on me. And I'll make a dogmatic statement that these people who had that Saturday night service, all of you are narcissists. It's all about you. You're not thinking about the lost. You're not thinking about, and they'll go down the whole line or whatever. Weren't there. Didn't want to participate. Haven't studied any of it out. Don't have the fruit following their life. Right? But everyone's the narcissist but them. Because if they have to say, I might be missing something, you'd have to take ownership of something. Ooh. Then if I'm wrong in one area, the feeling comes that I'll be wrong in all areas. No, you might be wrong in one, though.
So with that, I've been both sides,
Yep.
of course. So with that then, and like what you were just describing, their need to come back and make, I don't know, whatever, project their crap forward, that would then also present an opportunity for someone like in your situation with the knowledge you have to potentially open a door and sit down and talk and,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, I know not to deal too intensely with a narcissist, because if they're coming to me to talk to me about something and they're in a learning mode and I'm in a learning mode, I want to learn where they're coming from. They want to learn where I'm coming from. We can talk. You step into my office and you're like, I'm going to tell her. You don't step in my office, superior. Go get your own office. Start your own church. Study whatever degree you want and do your thing. And I will bless you on your way to doing that. See what I'm saying? But you don't get to come in that attitude. You know, I've had people ask questions in a setting, let's say like this. I had it once happen in jail and once at a different church that I was speaking at. The person was just like ramming their hand up. So I knew this is not a good question. Because the intent of their body was showing me, I'm superior, I know something, and I need to say it now. And I'm preaching, right? And so finally they asked their question, which really wasn't a question. They were making a statement, trying to throw a question in at the end. And I just said, I'm sorry, I can't answer that right now. And they said, why? See, why wouldn't you want to answer that? Kind of snotty. And I said, because the intent of your heart is coming out your mouth. And your intent is wrong. You disrupted a service. You tried to draw attention to yourself on this. And whether you're wrong or right at this moment doesn't even count. Because your intent was wrong. See? That makes sense? Anybody else have a question? Oh, way in the back. Wow. Anybody been trapped like that before? You're like, transportation. Start imagining yourself walking. You start doing all those different things. Sometimes young people are put in a spot like they can't just leave, right? Everybody climbed down their throat or whatever, so you're kind of stuck. And then sometimes as you get older, you rethink what you're invited to. But you already know everyone's going to get mad if you don't show up. You ever have that? If I don't go to so-and-so's, whatever, then they're going to be really angry. And so should you go to that out of that? Or should you go to that because you genuinely care about the person? And so we have to rethink when we decide to go to something, whether or not you can be trapped. So you're sitting there going, I can't let this happen again. And or you find some, like I was in a farm setting one time, and at the neighbors, and people were drinking and getting wild and crazy, whatever. This is after I got born again. I'm like, I ain't doing this or whatever. And it seemed like no matter where I went, they followed me. Somebody wanted to give me a beer, somebody wanted whatever. And I just happened to find a little nook around the corner of the house, and I hung out there, talked to God, and waited it out. Well, then later, I got the backlash from some relatives. You just disappeared. You get the speech, and you can't be doing that. So rude. Well, it's rude for people to come and try to get me to drink when I'm saying no. That's rude. So I'm not going to participate in that. So it's a hard answer unless I knew the setting. If I was in the setting, I could probably give you some here's your outs, right? It's a hard one, but you can come see me, and Maybe we can go through that sometime, just to be able, because I think it's, I don't want you to leave here just going, well, I don't know what to do. It'd be better if we kind of walk through some options, because options are the boundaries. Remember, in crisis demands change. Change demands decisions, but if you don't have the options, you can't decide a thing, so you can't even protect yourself. Jake.
So like, what if it's, like, say, so I don't have a lot of family left that I talk to, but like, so, and I have a long history of being, going on drugs, and when it doesn't
Yeah.
show up and everything else, but then it's like, I get the option to go to a family thing, but I would rather not go through the criticism and this and that and everything else, but at the same time, I'm like, if I don't show up, then of course, even if I'm sober, Jake's on drugs again, Jake's doing this, Jake's doing that. But and with that, it's not like I have to go to show them, but I do, because in my mind, because I've damaged these relationships and harmed them and burnt these bridges and showing nothing other than the track record that what they're saying is what to be expected unless I go.
Yeah. But there's a time and a place for that, right? And you're trapped either way. If you say, I'm not ready to show up for this yet, still working on me. Oh, yeah, he's working on himself. He's just drugging it up. And, the story can go down that route. But if you say you're coming, well, you better not be, right? You're going to get it either way, right? And that you're taking ownership of, like, I caused some of that, right? But you also have to take ownership of the fact that you're in recovery, and being recovered, it's like being naked, right? And God comes in and puts his anointing on you. It's that feeling of just the absolute shame of being like naked in front of everybody. And God goes, let me cover you, right? So when you're in there, you don't want that disrupted, just because it's a family thing or something you felt like you should show up to, and then you end up using because of the shame that's now there. Because it can do this. It can be like, no, you don't get to be covered. Let me uncover you. And you're like, no, Jesus covered me. It's like an argument in the spirit. And so you have to be in the right time and place to be able to introduce yourself back into that. You're not going superior and proving your sobriety to them, but you're also not a worm crawling on the ground, and it's like, I'm groveling back. No, you're a person who's been through hell and back, and you're in a war, and there's some honor in that also, because you're still here. You're fighting the fight. Mm-hmm.
What if I were to like, because I foresee this happening in the very near future, especially with it being summer. What if I were to, well, that may not be, what if I were to, I don't want to lie, but, well, I can only come for this amount of time. I have something else I have to go do. Stop, make an appearance for 20 minutes or whatever it may be, bring some
Yeah.
cookies or whatever the heck, and be on my way.
Mm-hmm. That's a good plan. That's a good plan, because you gave yourself an out and you gave yourself an in. And you were in control of that out and in. You're not like, okay, Grandma asked me and told me I had to be there, so I'm here. Hope nothing happens. No, you gave yourself an out and you gave yourself an in. Did you have something back there?
Yeah, I have a question. What do you do with a situation where, I've had a couple people in my life where they, will reach out and say, hey, I want, how are you doing or whatever, and then you start to, oh, good or whatever, and then they start sharing a whole bunch of awful things, trying to get you to, like, spike your emotion. Like, first they'll share a bunch of awful things about themselves that are, aren't true, but they're just trying to, maybe like get an emotion from me, and I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
That's too bad. Or they showed me like a picture of themselves that I knew wasn't them, that was not appropriate. They're like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, well, looks like you put on a lot of muscle. And I tried to like not engage with it as much and tried to avoid it, but then since I didn't get a reaction from there, then they started saying horrible things about my family and things that
Wow.
trying to like, oh, my husband, trying to like say that things happened that I know didn't happen. And what do you do with that kind of like, I was just kind of like blown away. I knew it was attention kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, how do you, I just pretty much said, you know, I'm sorry you felt this way or that this happened, but I can't engage with that, or I love you, I'm here, but I can't, I don't agree with what you're saying, but I can't, you know.
Can't get wrapped up in it. And actually, that's not a bad answer, if that's what you said, right? You know, you're valuing the person, but then you triage them at that point. You're like, you know, you should call this person, or there's a place that you could get the helps that you need for that, or how you're feeling, or whatever. You can triage them to not just get rid of them, but you're literally saying you should follow up on talking to, or if you really want help with that, here's where you could go. And that's why we need to know if it's not us. There's no guilt in that. You know, because you can bring in a lot of drama into your family when God's not asking you to do it. You're not to solve all the, you know, the savior for everybody, right? But if he assigns it to you, well, now you're in. If it's not your assignment, then it's like, who could I triage them to? How can we, you know, because it sounds like you're really experiencing some negative things. So you're acknowledging, I hear you doing that. You're acknowledging, oh, wow, okay, yeah. But you're also not posturing yourself as the savior. Because that's the temptation of some people that many times will use you, is they'll just be like, here I am, and they'll be real neutral, and then all of a sudden they'll say something real negative, and then they pause, and they're like, so you going to lead me? You going to help me? You're going to be my savior right now? And if you at that point would be like, well, I know what the Bible says, and God, and, you know, and I'll blah, 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 and you come up as a superior, then you're actually begging them to be codependent with you, and that story will just stay. And they'll just keep using you for whatever it is, every negative thing. So that's something that can happen. But when you posture yourself like that, it's like, wow, you know, I'm going to pray about this. And if there's something you can do, yeah, do it. But don't feel like you have to be that person who's going to be the solve-all for that negative situation. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So when you recognize narcissism in somebody like a family member and you've exercised love with boundaries, is it all about they have to come to a place of self-awareness in themselves? Is there anything you can do to present, this is what I see in you? It looks like narcissism. Kind of like what I was saying, they point the finger at everybody else and they don't see it
Yeah.
themselves. Like, how do you...
If you really want to tick off a narcissist, tell them they're a narcissist. So then you've lost all influence on them, so you don't want to do that. The thing that you do want to do is say, whoa, I don't know why you're feeling that way or whatever, but this is what it says to me. It says that I'm not important to you. It says, you know, I'm just making stuff up. It says blah, 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 and so I can't participate in that. I'm sorry you feel that way. And you walk off, and they're left hanging. They're like, what? Huh? Because you had a boundary for yourself, but they're baiting you, which we will talk about next week, is that bait that gets thrown out. Like you could have been baited in that conversation, you know, with the negative, trying every angle to see what you're going to do. And they're trying to you know, like a Rottweiler is different than a golden retriever. A golden retriever will sit on the porch, wag its tail when it sees somebody go by. A Rottweiler will watch you. And the next day you go by, let's say you're the mailman or whatever, they're watching you. They'll only let you do that so long because they're tracking you to see where they can pounce on you. And because that's their job. Yeah, so.
When you're in like a mentor role, how long do you triage someone? You know, because they keep, you know, because you're someone in their life mentoring
Yeah.
them.
I'll say things like, how long do you triage somebody? When you've given them the suggestion, you should call this therapist, or you should go. Yeah.
You know, weeks after
Yeah.
week, like how?
I turn it to them so that their brain gets retrained to process it themselves. I'll be like, so I laid out some options. So what are the options have you tried? And a lot of times they'll be like, I didn't try any of them. Oh, you must not have had time to try some of those options. So do I need to resend those, or is that something that you're going to try? Because that's what I have. That's what I have to help you. See, a lot of times we'll ask for something because we're still needing the attention. And it's the only way, even if it's negative attention, I need to get that attention because I don't know how to ask for a hug. I don't know how to ask, you know, for you to be my friend or whatever, and I feel unsafe. And so when you're handling it like that, they're going to keep you coming on that. And then they'll produce. If you feed that monster, then you have to keep feeding because they'll be like, and today I feel like I'm going to die. What are you gonna do with that? You know, and I thought I had an evil thought. What are you gonna do with that? And then you're right away. If you're the rescuer, you're like, let me help. You know, and no, I'm gonna give you some options, give you some triage, but you still have to make a choice. So what can I do to help you make a choice? Because that's where I see the issue is. It's not that there's not help. It's something's broken that you're not choosing. So what can I do in that area? And many times they'll break and start saying, well, this is why I don't trust or whatever. Now you got something workable to deal with. Make sense? One more question. Did you have one? It went up, it went down. You're not sure?
I guess my question is, okay, when you try, okay, there's two parties, and one party's a narcissist, and you try to ensure that they're a part of your kid's life. And the kids can see right through it, you know, and they just completely cut the other parent out, and, I mean, that's just, how do you,
Are they cutting the other parent out because they're afraid that parent is the narcissist? And they're afraid? Okay.
oh, they're just done with it, they can't take it.
Yeah.
They, I mean, and it just, how do you, I don't know, it's a really, it's just
There's a time and a place for the kids to revisit that, but that'll be on their schedule and their mind when they're ready. Yeah, yeah. Because once they're done, they're done. And it's actually sometimes healthier because they're saving their own brain. They're saying, here's my limit. I saw that this is a limit. And then enabling will say, you gotta keep trying harder. Well, maybe they're at their limit right now. Let's give them some space, you know, to be able to do that.
step back, no, definitely, I just don't, I mean, they're old enough to say, I don't want, and so I just, that's helping.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta let them do that. Other thing is, and we'll probably revisit this some next week, is when you are helping the enabler who's being harmed in a narcissistic situation, and you go and you try to rescue them, and they're like, thank you so much. You know, he was doing this or she was doing that, and they're just, you know, and you feel like, I'm rescuing. I came in and I just saved this person. And it'll be almost always, if they haven't learned the tools to stop enabling, they will flip on you. And the next thing, they'll go over, like triangulation, they'll go over to that person who's actually been hurting them, and then they'll tell you, you need to leave me alone. You need to stop being in my life. You need to whatever. Have you ever helped somebody and all of a sudden they just turn on you and you're like, what? You were the one who said, what? Yeah, yeah. That's a trait of an enabler, because they're like, I'm finally having a boundary, and then they're all of a sudden like, I can't do it. And then they'll flip and like, you're the one who's the problem, and then they'll go along with the narcissist and instead. That's right. That's right. Because they know they can't do it out here. They're addicted to the trauma bond. Oh, it's intense. Father, we just thank you for everything tonight and all the processing, and we just ask, Lord, that you reveal things throughout the week to us and show us if we have narcissistic tendencies. We all are selfish in an area, and so convict us, Lord God, change us, wash that out of us in the mighty name of Jesus. And everybody says, amen. The last Wednesday of the month, there's no Hope Dealers here. We are at Braham Event Center. You sure can come out for that. I think it starts at 5:30. Do they serve pizza there? Yeah, they were see if they could serve pizza. But anyway, it's a fentanyl, a night discussing fentanyl and the effects and things like that. So you sure can come on out to that. All right?